Obviously, Thanksgiving is here.
Yeah.
And people are getting together with their families. And I think we're so focused on how family's going to negatively affect us that we don't stop to think, what is my role within the family? Like, how am I contributing?
Welcome to the NOIRPOISED podcast, where wisdom is power is more than just a motto.
It's our way of life.
Happy Thanksgiving to you and yours from us and ours. We hope you are having a swell time with your family right now, having a drink or two. Hopefully we're doing the same
more,
thing.
Who knows?
Maybe more.
I might call for that.
Right?
Yeah.
If you haven't seen last year's episode, check it out because I'm sure it'll help you throughout the day. And this year we wanted to kind of like piggyback off that conversation, but more so on an accountability aspect, taking accountability for our part in certain situations rather than putting the blame on other people, other family members and loved ones.
Yeah, that brings me to a question I wanted to ask you. And I think I ask myself this, and I think everyone should ask themselves this, being accountable. What's one way you contribute to your family? And what's one way you think you're actually harmful to your family?
Okay. You actually want me to answer this, huh?
Yeah, I mean, you don't have to get too personal.
All up in my business. All right. One way I think I contribute to my family, I think, y'all let me know if I'm wrong, but I think
Not in the comments, just text it personally.
I think I find a way to make everyone feel special. Find a way to make them feel special in my life, at least. I think that's the way that I contribute. And then one way I'm a problem. Is that what the question was?
Yeah.
Okay. I think I could control my mouth a little bit.
I would say for myself, I think I do provide opportunity for my family. But at the same time, I think sometimes they look at me like,
this guy again.
Yeah, what is it now? Kind of thing. Like,
that
can't we?
I can verify that is 100% true. I see that actually.
Why does it always have to be
a thing? Why we got to think about this part of it? Why can't we just have fun and have a good? Yeah.
And the reason why I thought about this question is, like you said, last year we spoke about a little bit about how family could kind of be a pain sometimes. You love them,
dealing with the pressures
them,
of like the comments,
the comments and stuff. And I started thinking to myself, we have to wonder sometimes how family looks at us.
Yeah,
and seeing like how do we contribute to that.
Yeah.
And that led me to do some research as to what people label family roles. And I just want to go over a few of them really quickly. The first family role within a whole family system is the leader / decision maker. They set direction, make major choices, often hold a lot of authority. Then there's the emotional caretaker or regulator, manages the family's feelings, soothes conflict, keeps peace. Then there's the mediator, which is more so intervenes between family members. They prevent arguments and escalations. They kind of like play both sides a little bit.
I feel like that one and the last one sound very similar.
Yeah, they
like
do.
The peacemaker. Almost.
Right, they're peacemaker. But I think the first one is more so individual. So if you're going through something individually, you're the person in the family that people come to.
Okay.
Versus if there's issues between two family members.
Okay, gotcha.
And then there's finally the identified patient. They label as the person who shows the visible symptoms of family hidden stress, acting out, anxiety, withdrawal. And that was actually something we spoke about before, of how sometimes there's one family member that unfortunately is usually the oldest child who might lash out, they don't go the way the family wants them to go. And people look at that individual like, why are you like that? Why your siblings are not like that? But they might be the identified patient, the one where they've seen so much or they experienced so much from the family.
Like, I don't want no parts.
Not just that too, but they actually carry out the stress and it just comes out in different ways.
Yeah. And it's funny because I think sometimes it could actually be the opposite, where that individual not only carries the stress, but I think sometimes that individual is like, I'm going to do everything the same way they did it, because they tend to idolize the family members and think that this is the only way to do it.
Yeah.
And then it's usually the next one, like another child who's like, yeah, this ain't for me.
Right.
So I think it just depends on the individual, but that's interesting to hear. I kind of want to hear them again. So let me read it. I'm just going to read it really quick. I'm not going to.
Yeah. So obviously, Thanksgiving is here.
Yeah.
And people are getting together with their families. And I think we're so focused on how family's going to negatively affect us that we don't stop to think, what is my role within the family? Like, how am I contributing.
Right.
And when I thought about this, because I'm not gonna lie, I think because I've had to take such a hard stance with my family, I can tell when they're kind of like,
I can tell
rolling
when
their
they're kind of
eyes.
like that. I think everybody
Yeah.
can tell. They're like, this guy again.
And I can tell because, I love them and all, and I'm sure they don't mean any harm, but specifically my parents, my siblings are cool, but specifically my parents, they would start hiding things from me. And I would find out, and I would be like, "Oh, I didn't know you guys were doing this or talking about this." And I think it's because they knew that if they brought it to
You
me,
will challenge them.
I would challenge them on it.
Yes.
I'm saying all that to say, I learned to kind of pick my battles, and focus on how could I contribute positively to my family. And I think that would be the overall message or the conversation is how could someone just sit back and say, okay, maybe I might not be the emotionally responsive one. Maybe I might not be the authoritative figure, but how do I fit into my family so that I can actually feel like I'm contributing? And one thing that led me to think of is just the little ways family becomes family. Sometimes it's not just the big picture. Because I can think of several people, whether it's my family or yours, where for some reason when they're here, they bring life. They bring the comedy aspect, or maybe
someone has their own particular role in a way.
Right. This is something that I've actually wondered all the time, because it seems like, especially for the holidays, sometimes people would want to be around their friends. Like even the idea of a Friendsgiving.
Yeah.
It's like, what's going to happen with your family? I know they try not to do it on the same day, but I think it just highlights that people would rather sometimes be with the people they choose to be with. They could choose to be
They're
with
chosen
versus,
people.
Yeah, they're chosen
rather
people.
than their people.
Right. And I'm not gonna lie, that's bothered me because I can't understand. Your family is supposed to know you, right? It's supposed to know you. They've known you since birth or whatever the case is. So you should feel the most yourself around them.
But that's not the case.
But why is that? Like, why is it that you can feel a lot more like yourself in front of people who you haven't known your whole life?
I think it's really because those are the people we choose. Those are the people who choose us.
Yeah.
So with family members, God chooses them, but sometimes they don't choose you and you don't choose them. So you're not putting the effort to kind of like improve that relationship versus a friend or a significant other. You've made that choice to have this person in your life. So I think you're more willing to be interested in putting in effort and vice versa for them. So although, and it could be the same case with siblings, because I think sometimes there could be siblings that have that kind of relationship where they choose to put in the effort in their relationship and it keeps on building. But for the most part, that doesn't usually happen. You just know that person's there. And then we kind of touched on this in a previous episode, but oftentimes with family members, they continue to view you as a version of you that you were in the past. They don't necessarily continue to learn who you're becoming.
Yeah.
And I think once you've become a different version, they don't know that version, and so they're sticking to what they've known, and that can be irritable to like you know what I mean? So I think it's just that. I think it's just we don't choose our family.
That's a good point.
We choose our friends.
People within our family are more likely to remember us at our extreme, whether that's the good or the bad,
and bring it up.
And not just that too, but compare it. But I think it's such a shame when people are hesitant to be around their family for that reason.
Yeah,
like I've had people say this to me personally, and I don't think I've ever felt this way myself, but if they were, for example, supposed to graduate by a certain time, right, and they were unable to graduate and a family function's coming, they will not go to that family function.
I've heard that.
Because of embarrassment.
Yeah, which is sad,
Or if they're at a certain age and maybe they're not married or own a home or whatever the traditional expectation is, they'll choose not to come or they'll cancel last minute. And I think it's more than just an embarrassment, because
it's an insecurity too.
It's an insecurity, but I think it's also because they no longer see how they fit within a role in a family.
That's interesting.
Like, if you were expected to be the college graduate and you're not a college graduate, then it's kind of like, what's my identity now?
I think that can go deep. That's very interesting.
Yeah, if you were expected to have grandkids or be financially stable, and you haven't met that expectation, you kind of feel
lose your identity.
Going in.
In a weird way, I feel like I can relate to that.
How so?
Like something simple, but like when we moved, right? We don't live super close to family members anymore. And I felt like I was always the person who did certain things in the home, whether it was like changing the light bulbs or the smoke detector, batteries, or, just doing things around the home. I realized I can't really fulfill that anymore. Like something as simple as like shoveling. I'm like, oh God, there's a snowstorm. Who's shoveling my mom's house now that I'm not there, kind of thing. So I went through that where I had to figure out, like, so where do I fit if I'm not able to physically do these things?
Yeah.
So I can relate to that, where people may feel like maybe they were always supposed to be like the breadwinner, and things change financially and they realize, like, I can't support my parents as much as I used to anymore.
Yeah.
So now it puts you in a position like, so where do I fit? What do I do within this family? And oftentimes we tend to think like it's other people and what they may say, but sometimes it's actually, like I said earlier, internal insecurity. Like, you actually don't know where you fit anymore. You're actually ashamed of this particular thing, which then causes you to not want to be around people, when in reality, sometimes people are not even checking for you like that. You know what I mean? Yeah.
And sometimes we, like you were just saying, we put so much weight on ourselves that we think other people are not capable. But the point I wanted to get to is, I think we need to start detaching our family roles from what we do to who we are.
Deep.
Because what we do, once that's taken away, kind of like what you said, we start to question, like, oh, what is my identity here? And it kind of feels out of place. And I think people can sense that. And that would sometimes create conflict within family members. Continue with the example I gave with, you're supposed to have kids by now, whatever the case is. You label that as, your family has labeled you and you have accepted that label as, this is my identity. So now when you get there, you're already on edge.
Yeah.
I'm waiting for someone to
It might be on defense mode too.
And there's been countless of times, to the point now where when I catch myself doing this, I try to snap myself out of it. But I play so many scenarios in my head in anticipation of what family members may say to me. It builds up anxiety. Sometimes it builds up anger, frustration. Yeah. And I get there, and there's been times when one comment that wasn't even anywhere near it
takes you there.
Takes me there. And there's been other times when I spend, hours or the whole day with them and nothing was said. And I feel stupid. Like, I think, like, I spent so much time, trying to prepare myself mentally for the worst. But that's all because I've attached my role to something that I do. Yeah, so we need to somehow separate our identity within our family away from things that we do, whether it's positive or negative. Because
but how do you do that though? Because I feel like that is what you do. Like what you do is who you are in the family. So for example, if we talk about it in more simpler terms, right? Let's say there's the person that cooks. Everyone knows, like, your food is bomb. We coming in your house to eat. Now, sis is tired. Sis can't do it no more, right? Let's say she can't do it anymore. She's getting up in age. Shouldn't the family be able to recognize, sis can't do it no more? I can't keep showing up to sis house expecting to eat. How about I do for her what she's done for us? Let me bring a dish to her.
In a perfect world, that would be the case. But think about it, especially if she's a real sis, right?
Maybe she's a real sis.
Yeah. If she's a real sis, she would start deteriorating before anybody else notices. So she's going to...
What does that mean?
What?
She's a real sis.
I mean, like, black women are strong.
I'm not done.
I don't have any data to prove this, but I'm willing to bet that Black women are suffering on average 5 years before anybody else notices it. Right?
I think that's true.
Like, you guys hide it really well, and it could just be a people thing too. And I'm only Black women, so it could be everybody. But point I'm saying is, because we've had this conversation before, where after you've given birth, you're like, I'm postpartum. Why would people expect X, Y, and Z? But on the outside, you look amazing. You look like you've fully recovered. So I think a lot of times that thought process sets family up for some kind of issue. Because now, by the time year 5 hit and you really can't do it, that's when everybody's scrambling like, all right, maybe we should do something. But by the time you have 5 years of, doesn't anybody notice I move slower? Doesn't anybody notice, like, I'm more tired?
And it goes back to the accountability that we said earlier. So in other words, sis should have been vocal about her tiredness. Therefore, it's Sis's fault.
No, not his fault. But I think this is exactly what I'm saying, where we need to detach our family roles from what we do. Because in a perfect world, that would be the case where people notice and want to help out. In reality, what often happens, I feel, is let's say you're cooking all the time, right? And then the one year you don't cook, people say, oh, okay, we're just going to get somebody else to cook. And maybe people are not communicating with you as much. Your first thought is going to be, they don't really care about my well-being. Like, it gives space for all these negative thoughts.
Assumptions.
And assumptions, right. But what I'm saying is, if you're someone who likes to have in-depth conversation, that's your personality, that could be your role within the family. It could be having the conversations that people want to have, but no one is willing to sit there and listen to you talk about your frustrations with work or your personal health issues. Maybe your personality is more so on the humorous side. Like people look forward to seeing you because they're like, you're going to help me just laugh. You know, you could be someone who you just bring a peace to the room. You know, there's been several people who've said that to me. I don't really talk to them or whatever, but they've said, you know, when you're around, like I get a peaceful feeling. That's something I'm just doing naturally. I don't have to.
You're just being you.
Right. I'm just being me. Same way with you, where if you're having these deep conversations, you're not like prepping in advance. Like, this is what I'm going to ask people. This is just who you are. And I think if we use that to define our family roles, I think that's when everybody wins. Like, it's not a burden to you because you're not doing something that's necessarily going to make you tired. If anything, it's going to help build you up.
So just so I want to make sure I'm understanding. So what you're saying is detaching our roles from what we do means that we're going into family events and functions just being authentically us, and whatever it is that we are and that's within us is already bringing something to the table.
Right. Yeah. And I think that the waters get muddy once we start saying,
forcing to do things.
Right.
And identify as that rather than being who we are and identifying as who we naturally are. So in other words, if it's the family comedian, they're not forcing to be funny. It's just their character. They love to crack jokes. They're making everyone laugh. That's who they are. That's what they bring.
Yeah.
Okay.
And I do think that,
all right.
For example, if you are the breadwinner and you know that's expected of you, you know that, you know, they're going to run out on ice. They're going to ask you to go to the store and pay for the ice or whatever it might be. But you're also someone who's funny, who that's just naturally your personality. If you walk in your authority, then when it's time to be the other type of role that they label you as, I don't think you'll mind it as much.
You think so?
Yeah, I don't think you'll mind it as much because I think everyone wants to feel loved. Everyone wants to feel connected. And once you show them that you love them, that you're connected to them, that you are talking to them based off of their personality, not because you want them to spend money, they'll be more willing to spend money, or they'll be more willing to fit the other type of family role.
I can see that.
So for this Thanksgiving, I don't know where everyone's going to be, but I think it's important to just take a look at yourself and think, who am I authentically? And if you walk into the family function and just be you, I think people respect that more than anything else. You could be in the most conservative Christian family, but if you walk in being who you are, I think they'll respect that versus you putting up a
facade.
Yeah, a facade. And if you just be yourself, then whatever role that your family has assigned to you, not only is that going to be second place, but I think you'll naturally want to fulfill that role as well.
That makes sense. I like that. So to all the people who feel like they don't want to go to that function because they don't want to have to face the questions, just say F it.
Not to them. Not to the family.
Yeah. Forget about what you think people are going to ask you. Forget about what you think people are going to think of you, and just show up and be you. I think that's the lesson, right? That's basically what I got from everything you said. Show up in your true, authentic self, and people will find pleasure in that. So if you're the family comedian, or if you're the family conversationalist, if you're the one who likes to, help out in the kitchen and serve, do what it is that you do best. But like you said, don't do it because it's expected of you. Do it because it's who you are.
Yeah,
right?
Love that.
Yeah. And we're out. Happy Thanksgiving. Thank you for spending your time with us. We hope you gained some knowledge today that'll promote poise in your life. We have new episodes uploaded every Thursday right here, same place, same time. Until next time, you can follow us on Instagram at NOIRPOISED Podcast to stay connected. That's NOIRPOISED Podcast. We'd love to hear your feedback.
And remember, your wisdom is power.